Switching e-commerce platforms can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. It can take months, it can disrupt your team, and after all of that, you could end up with exactly the same problems you had before. If you're blaming your platform for your e-commerce headaches and thinking about switching, you might be asking the most expensive mistake of your business life. Now, I want to be clear. Sometimes you really are on the wrong platform. We've helped many businesses successfully move to a different platform that was a much better fit for their business. But after almost 25 years of working with e commerce businesses, I've also seen companies blame the platform for problems that really had nothing to do with the platform. My fast scaling companies do 15 million in revenue per year, and today I'm sharing why changing platforms often doesn't fix the real problem and what actually does. Because you can spend 10,000, 50,000, or potentially a whole lot more rebuilding your e-commerce site somewhere else, and you just need to make sure you're solving the right problem. So let's talk about what this could look like in the real world. A business has an e-commerce site that isn't working the way they need it to. Maybe it's slow, maybe things keep breaking, their integrations aren't really reliable, the development team takes forever to respond, or every time they want to make what seems like a simple change, it turns out to be a huge ordeal. Eventually someone says, "We've had enough. We need to get off of this platform." At that moment, switching platforms feels like the solution. There's almost a sense of relief. We're going to finally fix this. But then the migration starts, and suddenly you're rebuilding integrations. You're moving customer data, order data, product data, category data. You're recreating functionality you already paid to build once. And your internal team is spending hours testing instead of doing their normal jobs. And if things go badly, you can have broken integrations, missing data, missing orders, SEO problems, or customers who suddenly can't do something they were able to do yesterday. We have one client that came to us, gosh, probably almost 20 years ago, and they were frustrated with their shopping cart. They were so frustrated with what they were using. They found us, they started working with us a little bit at a time, got to know us, and they absolutely loved working with us so much so that we have partnered with them ever since. And you know what we've done is we've helped them take that platform that they were super frustrated with and gave them a development team that understood it and knew how to make it work and knew how to make it work great. And we have grown their online revenue. We've helped them grow their online revenue by leaps and bounds. And they've stuck with that software for a very, very long time, obviously upgrading as it goes. So sometimes it's not the software, sometimes it's the development team, sometimes it's the implementation, and that can really matter. They really just needed someone who understood how to make the technology they were using actually work for their business. So, somebody with both technology and business knowledge and understanding both at the same time. And if you've ever been to a platform switch that backfired, tell me about it in the comments. I would really love to hear about it. There's always, these stories that we can learn from because sometimes platform switches go great and sometimes they are a nightmare. And here's something else I want you to think about. Most e-commerce platforms have the basic same functionality. They can display products, they can manage inventory, they can take payments, of course, they can calculate shipping, they can connect to other systems. Obviously, there are differences, and those differences absolutely matter when you're choosing the right platform for a particular business. But if the platform itself are the only thing that determines success, why can two businesses use the exact same platform and have completely different experiences? One business is scaling beautifully, and the other feels like they're fighting their website every single day. Here's a belief shift I want you to take away from this video. It's not necessarily the platform, it's the partner. Or at the very least, the partner matters a whole lot more than most businesses realize. I've seen companies come to us after the developer disappeared right when they needed them or went on an extensively long vacation and didn't let their, customer know so that things could be prepared and backups could be put in place. We've seen businesses with serious technical problems that have been sitting unresolved because nobody was proactively looking at the site. And we've seen businesses who hire someone who's very good at making a website look nice, but didn't know the technical knowledge needed behind the e-commerce software so that they could get things working and get things working right. That's a very different skill set. Your e-commerce development partner shouldn't be just sitting around waiting for you to tell them something is broken. They should understand your business, they should understand how your systems work together, and they should think about performance, security, reliability, and conversions. And also what happens when your business grows. Are they thinking forward with you? Because choosing the wrong partner can make Shopify feel like a curse and Magento feel like magic. The technology matters, but the people implementing and supporting that technology matter just as much, if not maybe more. Now, here's what happens when you get this right. One of my favorite examples is a longtime client of ours. I'll just call them Client A for this story. When we started working together, their online sales were about $500,000 a year. And there was a point where they could have looked at their shopping cart and said, "This isn't working. We need something else." But the platform wasn't necessarily what was holding them back. So instead of throwing everything away and starting over, we worked with them on implementation. We looked at how the site was actually functioning. We tested it. We optimized it. We paid attention to security. We planned strategically for what they were going to need as they grow. For example, we created a layaway system as some of their items were high ticket, and this increased sales and allows people buy things over time. And we kept improving it instead of treating the website like just a project that was finished the day it launched. Over time, their online sales grew from $500,000 a year to 2.5 million a year on the same platform. That's the part I really want you to hear. Nothing magical because they switched e-commerce platforms. They didn't. What changed was how technology was being implemented, supported, tested, and continually improved. The platform didn't change, the implementation did, and the people behind it did. And that's why things like load testing, security, continual optimization, and strategic planning matter so much more. An e-commerce site is not a set it and forget it. The more you work with it, listen to your customers, and build features that they want and that support them and their buying habits, the more successful you're going to be. So that doesn't necessarily mean switching platforms. Sometimes, yes, but not always, because your e-commerce site isn't a brochure. It's not one and done. It's an important part of your infrastructure of your business. You have to treat it that way. It could be your best sales partner. And here's what a lot of founders and e-commerce leaders don't realize until it's too late. There's another cost to replatforming that doesn't show up on the development invoice. It's your credibility. Imagine you're the founder, CTO, e-commerce director, or marketing leader who champions a platform change. You make the case internally, you get the budget approved, your team spends 6 months working on it, you spend tens of thousands of dollars, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you finally launch, and you're still having the same problem. Maybe you have even more problems now. Now you're not just dealing with a website issue, you're answering questions about why the company spent all that money in the first place. And the last thing you want to do at that point is tell everybody, okay, we need to make another big change. That's exhausting for you, for your team, and for your business. Sometimes the smartest move isn't a new decision, it's a better direction. Before you decide that everything needs to be rebuilt somewhere else, bring in someone who can objectively evaluate what you already have. What is actually broken? What can be fixed? What's being caused by the platform? What's being caused by the implementation? What's being caused by integrations? And what's simply being caused by years of technical debt? Once you know that, then you can make an informed decision about whether your replatforming makes sense. And sometimes the answer will be yes, but you want to know that before you spend the money, not after. So before you take that big leap to change everything, make sure you've tried fixing the one thing that matters most first, your implementation. And if you're thinking, oh, Carrie, but how do I know whether the developer I'm working with actually knows what they're doing? If you're hiring an e-commerce developer like us, or even evaluating the one you already have, there's some very specific questions you should be asking. Click on the video on the screen. I'm being completely transparent in that video and giving the exact questions I think you should ask before hiring an e-commerce developer. And actually, you can take those same questions to your current developer. Their answers might tell you whether you really need a new e-commerce platform or whether what you actually need to change is a new partner.